Good morning, everybody. Mike's MMA Picks here with your Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown show brought to you by BetDSI as well as MMA Oddsbreaker. We're here for UFC Vegas 14, where we have Felder-Dos Anjos taking on Paul Felder. Kudos to Paul Felder for stepping in on 5 days' notice for this bout. We've got 11 fights. 8 of them are expected to go the distance. We'll kick things off with a slobber knocker in the heavyweight division where we have Don'Tale Mayes taking on Markos-Martinez. Markos-Martinez coming in at 7,200 plus 195 underdog. On the other side of the fight, Mayes 7-4 record, $9,000 in DraftKings, minus 245 favorite. Mayes fights out of a decent camp, is the much larger fighter here. Looks to be in decent shape. Still only 28 years of age, though we've seen him check out in many a fight. And the way he went out against Nascimento, not too much shame in that because he doesn't have the ground game to compete there. But we won't be talking much about a ground game with Martinez here, who legitimately looks like Colby Covington wearing a fat suit out there. Very, you got to wonder, honestly, he looks like he could make welterweight if he lost a significant amount of weight. You look at his fights in the past, and somehow, some way, he was matched up against a legend in Mirko Cro Cop. Showed no fear in that bout. I suspect he will be fearless once again in here and will look to absorb some punishment and then try to turn the tide late in this fight. That's his way. His path to victory here is to take some and then give some. And Mayes, we've seen him check out in fights. That is a possibility here. I see the line has closed a little bit. I'll be picking Mayes to win inside the distance, though. Martinez, he is a bit of a dog out there. I know he was Romanov's grappling dummy last time out, but there's a reason he's here, and I don't think it's to get completely squashed. So I expect Martinez to hang in for a while, but I'm going to be picking Mayes to get this done inside the distance. I think that the size difference is going to be just too much. Martinez has got to lose some pounds. Next up, we head to the 135-pound division where we have bantamweights. We've got Tony Gravely taking on Geraldo de Freitas. Geraldo de Freitas, 12-5 record. Going to have some size on Gravely here. Gravely, 19-6 record, 8,700 in DK, minus 140 betting favorite. Did his camp at ATT this time around. Looks to correct some of the deficiencies that he's shown in a number of fights with his 5 submission losses on his record. De Freitas, 7,500 plus 110 underdog. De Freitas is a dog out there. He is going to be the longer fighter. One thing I have to mention, if you watch the pre-fight interviews with Gravely, one of his curses that he verbalized is he knows that he's been losing to longer, taller fighters, and that's been his kryptonite, and he's looking to change that up in this spot. You watch the way Gravely fights, he is typically at a reach disadvantage. Also, he's only 5'5", but he does have that Appalachian State wrestling background, and he's going to try to look to lean on it here. The problem is, though, he's been swept in a number of his fights. He's very explosive. His striking, it typically takes him a couple of strikes to get into the pocket, and then once he's there, he's able to land. But I was planning on making a play on Gravely, but I have some hesitation here because de Freitas, he's pretty well-rounded out there. He's got a solid ground game, has solid cardio. We saw how he fared against Gutierrez Although Gutierrez and Gravely are different types of fighters, I see a live dog into Freitas, but I'll be picking Gravely here. I think the camp move, and he's put himself in good spots, but then he gets reversed, and that's a real concern, especially when you're going up against a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who can lock up a submission, and we know Gravely has those 5 sub losses on his record. So give me Gravely to win in a closely lined contest. This fight's expected to go to a decision at -170. Next up, we head to the women's 115-pound division, where we have Randa Markos taking on Kanako-Murata. Murata comes in with a freestyle wrestling background, very, very, very high level. 27 years old, Invicta strawweight champion, 8,600 in DK -195 betting favorite. Markos is a vet. She's a professional. 7,600 plus 155 underdog. Level of competition here for Markos dwarfs that of Murata's. We've seen Markos hang in there against some of the elite in the division, though she's been squashed recently in a few fights. Exhibited some questionable fight IQ against Mackenzie Dern. Appears to have addressed that heading into this fight, but you don't really know until these two young ladies lock horns. Although I got to say, Markos is starting to get up there at 35 years of age in this division. She looked like she had a rough time on the scale, and 10-9-1 record for Markos. I have to lean with the younger grappler here. There is potential for Markos to get submitted. I'll retract that statement. There is a chance for Markos to land a submission in this spot. I would not be surprised if she's the one locking up the submission. I see Murata looking to initiate the grappling exchanges early and try to push a pace here where they're stalling against the fence. And I'll be picking Murata win a greasy decision where Markos is going to look to reverse positions. I don't have a lot of faith in Markos in this spot. I could see folks fading this newcomer under the bright lights, and that is a possibility that Murata could drop the ball here. But I'm going to be picking Murata to get the win, and I think her wrestling pedigree is going to be the difference maker. Next up, we head to the 135-pound division, where we have Luis Smolka, who comes in overweight, weighed in at 139 pounds, 16-7 record, fighting out of Timoyama, 8,400 in DK, -140 betting favorite, taking on Jose Alberto Quinonez. Quinonez, 30 years old, 7,800 plus 110 underdog at the betting window. Very, very fascinating matchup we have here. We know that Smolka has the better ground game if he's able to get in top position, which I suspect he'll have opportunities to, because Quinonez has exhibited some questionable fight IQ in his previous bouts. Quinonez, the more well-rounded martial artist, the natural bantamweight here, who is going to be the faster fighter, going to be the sharper striker. And Smolka, one thing he has in his back pocket is scrambling ability, and he's in any scramble against just about any fighter in that division. You watch Smolka, and his length causes people big problems. Something to mention here is Quinonez has been working with a staple in his training room, who is Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno has a huge fight next weekend against Brandon Royval. And I think we're going to see a little bit of that rub off in this spot. Quinonez should come in ready to roll. The striking output should be big time in favor of Quinonez. I do have concerns watching the Ishihara fight against Quinonez, you see he's been wobbled a few times. And if Smolka sits down on his punches, he does have some power out here. Those extra 4 pounds could help in the grappling realm as well. The weight miss really throws a wrench into this one, because we know that that Smolka has vices in the past that he struggled with, and I'm concerned about him missing weight here. I'm going to lean and pick Quinonez, although this is not being done in conviction or with conviction in this spot. I could see Smolka getting top position here and locking up a rear naked choke. That is a real possibility, especially with the weight advantage. But I know that Smolka is a bit of a head case, and I'm going to be picking Quinonez. Next up, we have Alex-Morono taking on Rhys McKee. Rhys McKee, 10-3-1 record, 10 finish victories, 25 years of age, 7,300 plus 150 at the betting window. Really, his name fits him. Skeletor taking on Morono, who's 17-6, coming off of a brutal knockout loss to a big underdog in Chaos-Williams. 8,900 for Morono, minus 180 favorite. You watch Morono out there. He does have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game. I think that may come into play here. We're going to see Rhys try to maintain some distance, then crash the pocket, I think in a similar way to Williams did, but they're two completely different fighters. And watch out for that overhand right from Morono. He does pack a punch. Morono has shit the bed a number of times in fights. You watch the Jordan Mean fight. The win over Max Griffin, looking back on it, looks a little bit more impressive. He hung in that fight, but I don't see this one going the distance. I'm going to be picking Alex-Morono to win via submission in this fight. I think it's gonna happen probably in the second or third round. McKee, there is a chance that he comes out here and flattens Morono, but I don't see that happening. I think Morono is going to get this done. It's a volatile matchup. I don't see this one going the distance. So give me Alex-Morono, Team Fortis fighter. Next up, Ashley Yoder, Yoder-Granger, 115-pounders. 7-1 record for Granger, though. You look at her competition, she hasn't fought very good competition out here. Ashley Yoder has been in there against the who's who. $8,000 plus 130 underdog. Closely lined fight. We've seen this line flip. 33 years old, Yoder. One thing I want to mention, Yoder, not a very strong physical fighter. She tries to initiate grappling exchanges. When she's in the heat of battle, she gives up positions, and when she's pushed to the brink, tends to make mistakes. Granger, we saw her get submitted and go unconscious against Lemos last time out, and that there were some red flags in that matchup. The way she waltzed in and Lemos was able to choke her out. This fight, I think it's a little bit more complex than what we're looking at here. Granger has been taking Taekwondo classes since she was 4 years old and is the naturally better athlete. I do think she's a little bit tougher than Yoder when the going gets tough. I do think that Granger will have a better gas tank in this matchup than Yoder. And if it does hit the mat, Yoder should have the grappling advantage here she's got the higher level of jiu-jitsu. And if she's able to maintain top position for extended periods of time, she could win rounds. The thing is, though, Granger, she should be the better striker, the more powerful striker. And I do see Granger, you look at her finishes, and she does have a killer instinct out there. I'll be picking Miranda Granger to win in this matchup. And she's the younger fighter with, I think, some more life in her. I've been shocked that all of these losses by Yoder haven't discouraged her at this point in her career. And I think she's going to get tested again, and we're going to see Granger come out here with a decision victory. Next up, we have a battle of 115-pounders who have a total of 16 professional fights under their belt. We've got Kay Hansen taking on Corey McKenna. This fight, you look at the odds here, plus 165 underdog, $7,000 in DraftKings for McKenna. I see how she would be, could be a solid play in DraftKings at such a low price against a Kay Hansen who is still very green out there. 9,200 in DK, minus 205 favorite for Hansen. Hansen, the thicker fighter. McKenna, you watch her social media accounts, and she has been putting some time in over at Team Alpha Male with some solid competition in the training room. Hansen, I think she's the naturally better athlete, the higher skilled fighter. I do see some questionable fight IQ in her previous matchups. I do give her credit for attempting to engage in some professional boxing bouts, but I don't. I think this is going to come down to athleticism and the more dynamic fighter. I think Hansen is that. I think that she is the more powerful fighter. She's a little bit longer, and I think in scrambles we're going to see her surprise some folks that pull this fight out of the fire, so to speak. I could see McKenna getting out to an early lead, as we've seen in previous fights of Hansen's. She can have her back up against the wall and then pull something out of her hat, and you don't want to bank on that in a minus 205 favorite. But I will be picking Hansen to win. Just take into account these are very green fighters, both 21 years of age, only 16 total fights under their belt. Next up, we head to the men's middleweight divisions, where we have Eric Anders, 13-5 record, taking on Antonio-Arroyo, 7,700 in DK, minus 105 for Arroyo, 8,500 in DraftKings for Eric Anders, minus 125 betting favorite. This line has been closing all week. You also look at the scales. Eric Anders missed weight. This is a short notice replacement bout for Eric Anders. Eric Anders fighting out of a camp with Walt Harris, the big ticket. And you look at fighters who have not evolved over the past 5 or so years. A few names come to mind. I think of Smiling Sam Alvey, and I think of also Eric Anders. Came in as a football player out of Alabama, and tough as nails. Now, he does have big power. Has a pretty stout takedown defense, and he's a few things about him also. Eric Anders is slow, plodding. He can go for takedowns, has a fairly well-rounded game, has survived against stiff competition with Lyoto Machida, and held his own against Thiago Santos for a significant stretch of time, though has not evolved, and I have concerns about that against and Antonio Arroyo, who does possess some serious kicking in his game, is a massive middleweight who looked like he had a great weight cut. Arroyo has a solid ground game as well. I have concerns if Arroyo is placed on his back or is spending time against the cage. I think Anders, his path to victory is to make this an ugly fight against the cage, drain Arroyo, and then take him down and basically grind him out. If this fight takes place at range for significant length of time, look for Arroyo to land kicks, both low leg kicks, high kicks, body kicks, Look for Anders to try to catch those kicks. Anders does not check leg kicks well. You look at the Roundtree fight. There have been other fights where I think Jocko was out there just dancing around him. Arroyo, I'm going to pick him as an underdog here. I just haven't seen an evolution from Anders. And if Anders had a full camp here and made weight, things might be a little different. We may have picked Anders to win a grinding type decision, but I think we have a live dog here on our hands in Arroyo. So I'll be picking him to win. Next up, we head to the catch weight, to a catch weight of Brendan Allen and Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland, this takes place at 195 pounds. Strickland coming in 29 years of age, 8,300 in DK, minus 110. Betting, well, he was a favorite. Now we have Allen. This line's flipped a couple of times. Allen coming in 7,900, minus 120. Allen left Rufus Sport, now down at Sanford MMA. Allen, athletic, physical fighter who has a great ground game, and he's pretty slick on the ground. One thing he lacks, though, is a striking prowess, and his fight IQ, very questionable. I know he has some big wins over legitimate opponents like Tom Breeze and Kevin Holland, and he went 5 rounds with Eric Anders. This fight is interesting. You have Strickland, who is the sharper boxer, has stout takedown defense, is coming off of a brutal motorcycle accident where he was unconscious for multiple hours a few years ago. And this is a very sketchy fight. So if you're able to get a fighter here at plus money, I think it's an evenly lined fight. This is a toss-up in a way, but I will say that I'll be leaning with Sean Strickland here. You also have to realize that Kyle Daukaus last time out was a massive underdog against Allen, came out and was lighting Allen up at times on the feet, also saw success in the grappling realm. And man, if Strickland is able to have this fight play out for significant stretches at range, he should light Allen up. There's a big difference here in striking acumen, but we haven't seen Strickland pushed as far as grappling goes since his motorcycle accident. And I really I don't want to see that if I'm picking Strickland, but that may come into play here. And we know that Strickland's been in there against Kamaru Usman and other grapplers, and he's worn out his welcome at a number of camps, though he has a reputation as a solid grappler. I want to see how that plays out to a certain degree. We'll get some answers here, though. Daukaus broke Allen's face in a number of spots, and this is not a spot where you want to face a striker who's going to be using his jab, and we might see Allen's face swell up, and the longer this fight goes, Allen does have some gas tank issues as well. I know we went 5 rounds with Eric Anders, but I'll be picking Strickland to win, and he could get this done via decision, or he could just pepper Allen for a significant stretch of time, and Allen's face may swell up, and we could see a doctor stoppage at some point. So I'll be picking Sean Strickland to win that fight. Very fascinating matchup, though. Very closely lined fight. It wouldn't surprise me to see Allen get a takedown and lock up a submission. Next up, we have 170-pounders, where we have Abdul Razak Alhassan coming in against Chaos Williams. Kalen Williams, 26 years of age, 7,100, plus 180, underdog. Alhassan, 9,100, in DK, minus 220, betting favorite. I have some question marks about Alhassan. Second time, he's missed weight recently. Did not look good on the scales. This fight's not expected to go to a decision, folks, at -610. Williams looked phenomenal on the scales, and you look at his record, 10-1. But you watch how he fights, and I have some real concerns how Williams leaves himself wide open as he closes distance against a fighter like Alhassan. That's a recipe for disaster. If Alhassan didn't have this botched weight cut, I would be more apt to pick him with conviction here. Williams is riding high off of his win over McKee-Morono, and you look at his record, he's rattled off a number of wins, and he has gone the distance. You look at live underdogs here, I think Williams could potentially be live here, especially at 7,100. Alhassan is going to be at a reach advantage in this spot. He does have the judo background up his sleeve and fights out of a solid camp. Man, this is going to be a tough fight to call. I'll be picking Alhassan to win, but it would not surprise me to see Williams come out here and shock the world again. Somebody's going out, and I'll be picking Alhassan to win the fight inside the distance. Main event of the evening, where we have Paul Felder taking on Rafael-Dos Anjos. Rafael-Dos Anjos, 29-13 record, 8,800 in DraftKings, -195 betting favorite. Both of these fighters, 36 years old. Not many people may realize that Paul Felder is actually the older fighter. Paul Felder coming in on 5 days' notice, did not have a fight camp, was training for a triathlon. That's well known at this juncture. These fighters have identical reaches. You got 7,400 plus 155 underdog for Paul Felder. Paul Felder, tough as nails. We saw he basically retired in the octagon after losing a split to Dan Hooker. I actually had Felder winning that fight. That was a very close matchup there. This fight, fascinating. I do see Dos Anjos with a grappling advantage here. I think the striking is a wash. We should expect Felder to be live early. I think we're going to see Dos Anjos, if Dos Anjos doesn't get clipped early, he should push a grappling heavy pace and look to land takedowns, mix up his striking. Dos Anjos, over his 42 fights, has been knocked out 3 times. Last time being against Eddie Alvarez after a brutal weight cut at lightweight. This fight, you gotta say that Paul Felder's live for the first 2-3 rounds, but after that, I think we're gonna see Dos Anjos, who has put in a full camp for her fight against Makhachev. I think we're gonna see Dos Anjos run away with this late if we don't see Felder come out here and spark Dos Anjos. I think that's Felder's path to victory here, is to win via stoppage in the first 3 rounds. If that doesn't happen, I would say that Dos Anjos, if this fight was lined even with Felder in a full camp, Dos Anjos would be lined as a favorite in this spot. You look at the Chiesa bout and the Edwards fight. I see folks saying that Dos Anjos was washed in that fight. In those fights, he was facing much larger opponents in those bouts. And although he was on the losing end of those grappling exchanges, he hung in there for some time. And Felder, you look at the weight cut that he had this time around, he looked worse than a Skeletor out there. The skin and bones. If we're looking at probability here and who is more likely to get this done, I lean towards Dos Anjos here, and I'll be picking him to win. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him win late via stoppage. Great fight. Props to Paul Felder for stepping up. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this morning. Reminder to go get what's yours. You can check out my premium plays at MMA Oddsbreaker. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at MikesMMAPicks. You can follow me at betmma.tips. We're cranking out these cards left and right. Only a few more to go. Up over 33 units this year in 2020. Ready for more. Let's go, my friends. Let's do this. It is time. Your time. Go get what's yours. Let's do this.